Good morning, everybody. This is Matt from DM North, and I am going to walk you through a tutorial on how to make a custom Dice Masters card. Before you start, you are going to need a few things from the site. They should be all available to download. You are going to need the template file, which is the file we'll be looking at here. It'll give you basically everything you need to make the card. You also will need to download a couple fonts to make sure you have the same fonts that are in the file. The other thing you are going to need is a couple images. You're going to need an image of whatever dice you're going to use for this. In this case, we are going to take the advice of James from Dice Masters with James and Zach fame, and we are going to use Sandman as our dice. And you will also need an image for your card, whatever card you decide you're going to make. In this case, we are going to make the Dirt Golem. If you do not already know, the Dirt Golem is probably one of the most powerful cards in Dice Masters. It was created by Jay Cutt, and if you want to know the history of it, check out DM Armada's video from a few weeks ago. I'll try to include the link somehow in this. And let's get started. So what we've got here is the Photoshop template file for the card. You can see it's pretty much as a basic setup of a Dice Masters card. It's a little bit bigger in the template than what the Dice Masters card is. You'll see these little hash marks at the sides. Those are printing cut marks. So basically, if you get this printed somewhere, they're going to use these little marks to kind of cut the card so that it ends up the correct size. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. So the first thing you're going to want to do is turn on your guides. If you go to the view menu and to guides, it'll turn these on. It's going to create little blue lines to show you where all your marks are. Basically everything in the middle there is your actual card. Everything outside of that area is what the printer is going to cut away. We're going to start here with the copyright section. This section, it's on all Dice Masters cards, kind of describes the set, the number of the card and whatnot. So what we're going to do here is just rename it. So we're going to call it a YouTube set. I just need to remember how to spell YouTube apparently. So YouTube 2018 is what we're going to go with, and then we want to make sure that the card numbers are set to what we want. You can have this, in this case we're only going to do a card set of 1, so that number's already set. And I just like to make it set, or card 1 of however many, so card 1 of 1 in this case. Then we're just going to nudge it down a little bit just to put it in a better position. I use the keyboard for this. You can use the mouse, whatever you want here. The next thing you're going to want to do is have some type of a set image made. I pre-made this. In this case, I just took the YouTube logo, shrunk it down, made it pretty. I've also included a logo from my Injustice set that I made, and basically make it about the size of the text, position it where you need to, and that's it. Next, we're going to move on to naming the card. So you're just going to double click that area here. In this case, we're calling him the Dirt Golem. Pretty straightforward. You want to give him a subtitle. We're going to keep the original subtitle because I actually quite liked it. I thought it was kind of funny. So I do exist, Stephen, and you want to put an exclamation point after that because it's really important. Next, we're moving down to the cost. So we're not going to leave it as a 2 cost. We are going to up it to about a 6 cost because the good characters are always expensive. You can never get anything cheap and good in Dice Masters. Now the meat and potatoes of the card here. This is the ability text box. You can see it's set pretty low. In our case, we're going to want a lot more text than what's there, so we're going to want to hide this. So you just click the little eyeball beside that, it makes the layer disappear. So we're going to want to be a little bit higher, which is the high ability text. You just double click that to start editing it. In this case, we're going to give it a keyword, so we're going to give it the fabricate ability, and we're going to call it a fabricate 2.5. Then bump it down a little bit and start putting the ability in. In this case, the ability is going to be when you fabricate, if I can remember how to spell fabricate, Dirt Golem. Wow, I'm struggling there. Remove all Shriek and Cosmic Cube dice from the game. including unpurchased dice, period. And to make it a little more nasty, we're gonna cause some damage as a result of this. Your opponent loses 1 life for each die removed this way. And we also want to protect Dirt Golem, so we're going to add a little bit more text. Dirt Golem cannot be blanked. Now, you can't actually see that text right now. It's a little bit below what's visible, so what we need to do now is actually shrink the size of the text. So just select everything, and I use Command A, Control A, whatever you got there, and you're just going to shrink the text till it fits nicely. So we're just going to make a few more little changes here. So we're going to add in any unpurchased dice. That was more of a formatting thing than anything. I don't like little hyphens on the text box, so that's just a personal preference. Then what I want to do is just shrink this little blank space. So again, I go to the text area and just make it smaller and put it where the text looks good. The final thing we got to do is bold the keyword, and I kind of messed up there and shrunk the text somehow. So we'll make it bold, and then just double check what the size of the other text was. Go back to that one and just make it bigger. Make a match, and then you should be good. That looks a lot better. Now don't worry about the background not matching at this point. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we're going to try to stay in an order here. There are some other things in there. If you want to have burst abilities, there are little burst symbols there. There's the single burst, double burst, and both bursts. And you can resize that and move it around. In our case, we're not using it, so we're going to keep it hidden. We've also created these little generic energy icons. There's a whole bunch, 0 through 9. They're each individual. You can click on them, you can move them, you can add them wherever you want. Again, we're not using them. We're going to keep them hidden, but they are in the template. This area here is for global abilities. If you did want to create a card with a global ability, it's already set in there. Again, you can move it, shrink it, whatever you need to do. Again, we're not using it, so we're going to leave it hidden to put our text back there. This next section here is to basically get the dice images and numbers correct. So at the top here, we've got, if you're going to make like an action card, you can change it to use, max, whatever you want to do. Again, we're using a character, so we're going to leave it at max. So now we need to make the dice symbols and numbers match. So each of the dice are numbered 1 through 6. And you're going to go through each one and correct them. So dice number 6 here, we're going to correct the fielding cost to match Sandman's stats. So he's a 1-3-3. A 1-3-2, I believe. Oh yeah, forgot about the little burst symbols if you need to add them. So yeah, we're setting die number 5 here to a 1-3-2, and then we're going to move down to die number 4 and set that to a 0-2-1. All good Golem stats. Okay. And now we need to make the energy symbols match. So Sandman is a fist character, so what we need to do is turn off the shields, turn on the fists for die 2 and 3, and then die number 1, same thing, turn off the shields, turn on the fist. Now we have a basic setup there. So the next thing we need to do here is actually get the dice image into this file. So we need that little Sandman symbol on there. So what we're going to do is you want to select that the dice template basically, and then what you need to do is you need the image from somewhere. I got this from Cool Stuff Inc. And you are going to take that image of the Sandman. I pre-selected it, so I'm just going to back up a little bit. You just highlight it, select. You can be a little messy here, select a little bit more than what you need, copy it. Go back to your template, make sure you're on that dice image because you want to be one layer above this when you paste it. So paste it into your file here, and then move it down. So you're going to move it to the end, and then all you want to do is resize this so that the numbers are pretty close in size. I keep clicking that little link icon so that the height and width stay the same. Nudge it around with your keyboard. Again, you just want to get the numbers about in the same position. This doesn't have to be perfect at all, just get it close. Okay? So now we got a problem. We got the numbers behind our numbers, so we need to get rid of those. So I like to zoom in so I can actually see what I'm doing a little bit. So let's get in a little bit closer. And now we need to remove things. So we're going to use what's called the clone stamp tool. It's basically going to take pieces of the image and paste them over other ones. So sorry, my brush was a little bit big. We're going to make that a little bit smaller because we want to clean off those numbers. So you're going to select an area of the image that you want to copy. So there's the background, and then you're going to slowly click around, and you can see that we're slowly removing the 0 from this image here. And I just keep clicking over and over and over, so it's always picking up a new part of that image. And rinse and repeat. We're going to just do the same thing for the number 1 there. And again, you're just working behind this 3, trying to get rid of anything that you can see. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, you're just trying to hide as much as possible. Same thing for the 2. You're just going to keep bumping it up until there is nothing visible. So the next step that we need to do is we need to get rid of all this extra junk. So go back to the dice template, select that with the magic wand tool, and you want to invert the image. So now it's selecting everything else. Go back to your dice image, hit delete, done. You're good. Now you want to just deselect it again, go back to your arrow tool, and basically duplicate this layer. So now it's the perfect size, everything's good. Hit OK, drag it over to the next die. And you just want to make sure you cover up that white square there. So you can nudge it around the keyboard if you're a little bit off. And repeat the process. Do the same thing again for the next die. Drag it over and nudge it around. And if you're not sure, nudge it a little bit more and just till you're happy. And one more time. Drag that behind the fists there. That's pretty good. And now we need to get rid of Sandman. So we're going to go back to our clone tool. Now I could have made this brush a little bit bigger and I didn't. So that's my bad. Would speed up the process a bit. But here you're just going to click, drag it across because you're getting rid of everything here. And like I said, I took my time with this and I could have been a little bit more efficient. I really took my time with this, holy cow. But essentially the same thing. Anything that's visible, you want to get rid of it. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as you can't see anything behind the image here. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the Sandman. We're going to duplicate this layer. Hit OK, drag it over, and you can see there's a little bleb there. We're going to fix that when we get to the last one because it shouldn't be there. And one more time, duplicate the layer again, drag it over. You can see our bleb that we missed, so we're just going to nudge that into place. Go back to our clone tool and just make corrections there just to clean things up a little bit so that they're not as visible. And then there's a couple other little blebs there that I just noticed, so we're going to go back and fix that. We got to go back 2 layers to do that as well. A little bit right there and a little bit right there. Now we're good. Now this step isn't necessary, but I like to kind of keep everything in one spot. So I'm just going to select all those layers we just made, merge them into one, keeps them kind of tidy. Next, what we need to do is make the colors of the fists and the numbers match the Sandman. So you're going to use your eyedropper tool, select what looks about the right color on the image there, and then you are going to go to the first visible layer here. So in this case, it's the fist. Right click on that. You are going to go to blending options. And you are going to go to color overlay. Select that little box with the color. Now with your eyedropper tool, go to the color you just selected, hit OK, and you can see it turns it brown. Now the shortcut here is to copy and paste this over all the other ones. So right click, copy layer style, go to the next layer, right click, paste, and now go to the stats, select them all, and paste them. And again for die number 5. And paste. And last but not least, die number 6. And paste. And there you go, we're done with the die images. Let's bring us back out here. There you go, we're looking more and more like a Dice Masters card as we go here. So we are now on to the affiliation section. Now I've created this little blank here, and this is roughly where the affiliation logos are going to go. So just leave that there. It's more of a placement image than anything. I've pre-created an image for this one, and it's going to be a DM Armada affiliated character. Now I've already put it in the right spot, so once you're happy with the placement, get rid of that square, just hide it, and you're good to go. We are doing the costs now. So, at the very beginning, we just left it as a shield character. We just need to change it back to a fist, and we should be good. Rarity. So, open this up right now. It's at a super rare rarity, but we've got all of the rarities set here. So you've got your rares, you've got your uncommons, you've got your commons, you've got your promos. But this is the Dirt Golem, and this is special, so we are going to check special. So you can see it's turned it to now a purple stripe. This card background section, you're not going to mess too much with this, but this area here, always leave it on. It's just the black behind the dice. We now just need to kind of change the border of where the ability text is. So there we go. We've got to switch to a high ability text. You basically just want to keep the ability text visible in there. Now the printing marks, this is all the stuff on the outside. So the first thing we want to do is make the rarity match whatever we've selected. So in this case, purple. The other thing we got to do is bring the little the lines for the bleeds. So right now that's at a low bleed. We want to make it a high bleed. So the bleed's just what's outside the print area, so that when the printer makes it, it looks nice and clean. And that pretty much corrects the printing marks. Okay, now the main part of this is the actual image itself. Go to Google, find something you like. I've pre-selected one myself, but I'll just show you how to drag one in. You want to be you want to deselect things, so you want to drag one image, but just drag it in over top of that blank section, and it should put it where it needs to be. So then you just play around with the placement. So resize it, whatever you need to do to make it look good for you. And don't worry if things are outside those little blue marks. We want things outside of those blue marks. It helps with the printing process. Again, looks pretty good there. I'm not too worried about all this other stuff on the outside, but this isn't the image I want for this file. So we're going to hide it, and we're going to bring back the image that I actually want, which is this one. I quite like this one. It screamed Dirt Golem to me. That's basically it now. Like we're basically done. You've got what is essentially a card now that you can print. You can send it away to a printer. You can print it yourself. Whatever you want. If you're not really sending it professionally, you might want to actually just clip it yourself. So just go to resize the canvas to make it to the right size, which is actually a 2.5 by 3.5 inch card. Just change the canvas size and hit OK, and voila, that's the Dirt Golem. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I'll try to walk you through it. Otherwise, good luck, make some really good cards, and we'll see you next time.